Alright, what up YouTube? This is a very important video. Hopefully I can... okay. There's a lot of reasons to why you have this disparity between educated black men and women. First of all, I will say that it's not as great as the women want to put out there. The women will act as if they're blowing black men out, and it's like, 100 to 50. But in reality, it's like 90 to, 80, right? It's not a real blowout. You guys are up, but you're not blowing black men out. But nevertheless, there still is a disparity. And, it's about understanding why. See, the women will complain about there's not enough, but you won't look into it. That's the dumb part about it. You'll have the women who will get it wrong. They'll act like they're up 100 to 50. Then you'll ask them, so how come you're up by so much? What's going on? And they don't even give you anything that's remotely intelligent. It's on that we're just better. We just try harder, right? Only to later on and cry, or say that how come it's not equal, right? But that's I've already talked about that. So the question is, why do you have this disparity? And we've talked about how, in terms of the black culture, being educated for black men is a knock. And they don't get that support till they're doing well financially. Then everybody wants to be your friend, right? You're going through the process. You're corny, you're lame, blah, 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 blah. Now all of a sudden you're doing well financially. Oh, man, you're this. Can you help me out? And it's kind of like, man, get out of here with all that. We've talked about that. We've talked about you have black men who, didn't have to go to college to do well. So they're either in the blue collar fields or, maybe even the military, or they went a different route, but they get thrown out, right? But also, what never gets talked about is the fact that for a man and for a woman, a degree doesn't mean the same, right? Let me get into that, and hopefully you guys are able to follow me. A man with a degree, okay? A degree for a man is pointless unless he has the financial earning power behind it, right? So it doesn't matter your level of degree if the money doesn't match, right? It doesn't even matter what you're doing. So the doctor doesn't get the respect because he's saving lives or whatnot, or because, he's a doctor. He gets the respect because they know the sort of money that is behind the doctor or the lawyer. It's not about what they do. It's about the money. It's like the same thing with teaching, right? I have, how many kids do I have? Around 180. On average, a teacher, a middle school or high school teacher, middle school, you probably have 180 to 200 kids yearly. High school is definitely 200. So you multiply that by, let's say, 10 years. If I have 180 kids a year, that's 1,800 kids that I've dealt with, right? That I've had some sort of impact on their lives. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best teacher in the world, but I know that, when my kids move on, they will remember me, right? And a lot of the stuff that I tell them will stick because I like to talk about life with my kids because somebody needs to, right? But yet, male teachers don't get the level of respect. If you look at what we're doing, hey, we're trying to help people out as well. Just like the lawyer helps out people, legally, and the doctor helps people health-wise. We're trying to help people out as well in terms of education and even more, because we have a more of an everyday relationship. You see the doctor how often, you see your lawyer how often, but you see your teacher every day. But yet we don't get the same level of respect. Why? Well, because teachers don't make that much. So that's what it comes down to for a man, right? It's not about what you do. It's about, the earning potential behind it. So for a lot of black men who understand that man, this degree is pointless unless I have, a good paying job, a lot of them say it's not worth it because of limited employment opportunities, right? If you don't really have somebody older that can kind of help you and mentor you, it's very difficult. So there's a lot of black men who don't have the mentor, right? Or, they don't have that sort of older leadership. Maybe it's somebody in their family that's made it and they can kind of help them deal with the frustration. They don't have it, so they fall off because it's like, yo, look at the employment opportunities for black men, even if you do have a degree. Why am I going to complete this degree, whether it's your BA, BS, or, master's or PhD, if I can't get a job? It's pointless. I'm a man. It's pointless for me to get this degree if I can't get a job. It's meaningless, right? No one's going to respect the dude who says, oh, I have an MA or I have, a doctorate in this, but you don't have a job or, you're like underemployed, right? And I've seen it happen where, you'll have, I've seen dudes who have, let's say their doctorate in English, and they're teaching, high school English. I've seen it happen, and it's kind of like, okay, you don't get the same level of respect, quite frankly, because if you're a dude and you say, oh, I have, my doctorate in English, the next question is, oh, where do you work? People want to get a gauge of, how well are you doing? This is how it works for men. So it is a deterrent for black men to want to go off and get, go to college or get their MA or get their PhD or whatever they're trying to get. It is a deterrent knowing that they're going to have limited job opportunities, and their degree is only validated once they get a job or, they start having financial earning potential that matches it, right? So it is a deterrent. Right? So like I said, if you're a black male, knowing your employment opportunities across the board, you're going to have a group of black men instantly that will say, nope, I can't find a job. Right? Or, the probability of me being hired is lower than everybody else's. So, man, I'm not going to go through with this. That doesn't get talked about. But for women, it's different. For women, it's definitely different. When a woman has a degree, no one is really saying, well, how much is she making? Or she's underemployed or she doesn't have a job. The simple fact that she has a degree, she's already given credit. No one is like, well, let's take a step back and see what she has going on. Right? That's why you see women who don't even have to go back to school going to school. I have a couple of women in my program now. They don't need to be in school. They're already taken care of. They're older, and their situation in terms of how the family is going to get by financially, that's already taken care of. Right? That's why they have the time and the money to go back to school. But they're going back to school because the woman gets a certain level of credit simply by having a degree. Right? How many black women do you know who don't have a job, who have a degree, some sort of degree, or who are underemployed? But yet they still get that whole level of props, right? They still get that level of, they still get that, what's the word I'm looking for? Congratulation, right? Simply because they have a degree and they've proven that, they're this sort of modern woman who isn't traditional, and she can go off and, she can get a degree and she can navigate the world of men, even though for the last 20 years, women have been going to college at the same rate that men have, and in some places there's more women than men, right? But, once a woman gets a degree, they act as if they're the first one to get it, right? I'm the first woman to get this degree, and it's 2009, so they're automatically giving credit for having a degree, right? By showing that they're more than just a pretty face and a fat ass. I'm so much more. I may be a housewife, and you've seen it. She's pushing a minivan and she's a housewife, but her license plate says I graduated from, this institution, right? So it's just like, oh, I'm showing that I can do many things, and it's like, no one's really checking to see how much money you're making, huh? Right? I can't even tell you. See, black men, we don't necessarily get hired. So it's not even about being underemployed. We're just not being hired. For the women, it's like you guys are getting the jobs, but you are also underemployed. So at the end of the day, even with your degree, you're still not making the money that you should be making. But once again, no one is checking for that, right? No one is checking for that. No one is just like, your degree is not valid. I've seen chicks who have, or the women who have a PhD, and they're grotesquely underemployed. Oh, horribly underemployed, but, it doesn't lessen their prestige. So they can go around saying that they're a doctor, right? It doesn't hurt them, right? But if a man is underemployed, it's kind of like, your degree is pointless, my friend, right? You wasted your time. Um, so with that being said, you can see why there would be a disparity. I mean, I've seen brothers, even in undergrad, kind of fall off because they didn't really feel like they were going to go anywhere. And once again, going back to the whole not really having that role model or that mentor, but they didn't really feel like they were going to go anywhere. What's the whole point of getting this degree if I can't get a job? I mean, I can't even get a job now, right? I'm not even getting hired. So what makes me think that I'm going to get hired once I get this degree? And they'll fall off because of that. And you'll have women who have the same sort of low probability of obtaining any sort of employment, but they'll stick with it because they know it's just a badge of honor. Simply having that degree and having that picture where you're shaking the chancellor or the president of your college's hand on graduation day, you've already arrived. You've already been given the title as the strong, independent, modern black woman. No job, underemployed, that doesn't matter at all. Right? So the women know that they're going to get a level of validation for simply having a degree. Right? Whether it's in some BS degree or whatnot, right? Especially if, they had that one child too, and they managed to graduate. Oh, and I've seen it happen. I've been to graduations where, Keisha has a kid, and the sad part is the kid spends more time with the grandparents. They're funding that child in terms of giving her a place to stay, child care, food, clothing. She graduates and she gets like a special award, right? And it's like, okay, what have you really done, right? But, this is how it works. I'm not going to say it's just for black men and black women. I think this is for men across the board. But once again, this never gets talked about. Never gets talked about in terms of what a degree means for a man and what a degree means for a woman, right? So in closing, a degree for a man is meaningless unless he has that financial earning power, unless he's making the appropriate money, right? It doesn't matter. Your degree is pointless if you don't have a job. Your degree is pointless if you're underemployed, right? It's pointless. You're not given credit, right? You're probably going to be seen as somebody who wasted their money, and they're going to tell you, hey, man, I think you should get a refund, right? But for a woman, simply having a degree, oh, she's given credit automatically. Oh, you have a degree. Who cares if you don't have a job? Who cares if you're underemployed? Girl, you have a degree. Girl, you went to school. Girl, you were able to do it. You were able to go off and, navigate through white people who don't like you, black men who want to take you down. Oh, girl, we're giving you credit. You're good, right? So because of that, there's that extra push. Even though black people across the board have lower employment probabilities, there's still that push for black women to want to go further because they know that they're going to get credit. But for black men, it's kind of like, shit, how far should I go? Even if I do get this degree, am I going to get a job? And if I do get a job, am I going to get a job that's paying me how I need to be paid, or am I going to be underemployed? Right? So that's just, some food for thought. Like I said, the women want to throw out this whole idea of there being this disparity, but you don't want to talk about why. So that's my vid. Let me know what you think. God bless.